Good morning. How you guys doing? This brother Mike back with the thought of the day on February 13th, 2023. First, I want to give honor to and praise to the Elohim of Israel for waking me up today and giving me the strength to bring this message and the wisdom to be able to translate it over to you guys. Today, I want to talk about the capacity of being honest. The capacity of being honest. When you come into recovery, one of the best things you have to understand is this process is about being totally honest. And for much of us alcoholics and addicts, that was one of the things that we couldn't do in our life, is totally be honest with ourselves and be honest with others. I had a couple of guys that wanted me to sponsor them, and as soon as they asked me to sponsor them, the first thing out my mouth is, I can do this. The only way I can do this is if you're willing to be totally honest. If you're not willing to be totally honest, then don't waste my time and don't waste your time, because the process don't work. So I'm gonna start off reading how it works from our text, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. It says, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to the simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They're not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave and emotional mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we're like now. If you decide that you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. At some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember, we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. Then we get into the steps. But if you look back through this reading, you will see this whole thing relies on you being honest. It tells you in the beginning, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. So they're basically telling you, if you do what this process tells you to do and you're honest, that you have a great chance of staying sober. Next, they say, usually the people who don't be sober are people who can't be honest. Then they go into, even if you have an emotional or mental disorder, you still can stay sober if you're honest. Basically telling you there's no excuse for not being sober if you're willing to be honest. Then it went into how when we start this process, some of us are going to balk because we're going to see that we have to be honest, and then we're going to run away. So we understand in this process, we got to be total forthcoming. So when I did my steps twice, I was totally forthcoming. And once I was totally honest with myself and my sponsor and with God, I was broken down, because that ego and pride and that person who I thought I was, the arrogance, was totally gone because I was exposed. For the first time in my life, I told everything, things that I thought I would take to my grave, things that I thought nobody would ever know about. I had to be totally honest, and I did it. And anybody that wants to do this process, you gotta be willing to be honest. And all the way to the end, it tells us, it says, have measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. That means that in the past, we tried to lie, we tried to do other things, and we still went back drinking. So now we at the turning point. What we gonna do? Now we gonna ask God to help us because we about to dive in and be totally honest. We gonna ask God to help us once we be naked in front of the world and tell them everything that happened to us. We're gonna ask God to help us. And once I was willing to do that, my whole life changed. Being honest, what it did was kill the old person and bring the new person to life. And then the next thing I did was find a church to get baptized at, and then I was ready to start a new life. But it started with me, for the first time in my life, being totally honest. Now that I'm in recovery, my whole recovery stands on me being totally honest. Because if I start lying and I start cheating and I start doing all those other things, it's going to result in me reliving those old behaviors, and it's going to take me back to a drink. So when people ask me, what do I have to look forward to if I'm really ready to recover? For the first time in your life, you have to be totally honest. And when you look over our literature, it tells you that. If you're not honest and willing to be honest in this process, it's not going to work. So don't waste your time going to somebody and asking them to sponsor you, or if you're not willing to be honest, because you're going to waste your time and you're going to waste their time. But once you do this, if you're totally honest when you do it, it's going to change your life. This is Brother Mike. Enjoy your day. Shalom.